Chapter 2. "O'Malley, is it? And why are you looking for him?" the tavern-keeper asked. Those dark eyes came up to meet his again, boring into them. The message in them was clear. The stranger's hand moved to cover the gold coin, but for the moment he made no move to pick it up and remove it from the bar. "Well now," the stranger said quietly, "I was wondering whose gold coin this was. Did you put it here by chance?" Before the tavern-keeper could reply, he continued, "No, I don't recall that happening. As I recall it, I was the one who put it here in return for information. Is that how you see it?" The tavern-keeper cleared his throat nervously. The young man's voice was calm and low-pitched, but no less menacing for the fact. "Yes, that's right," he replied. The stranger nodded several times, as if considering his answer. "And, correct me if I'm wrong, but usually the one who's paying the piper is the one who calls the tune, or in this case, asks the questions. Would you see it that way too?" For a second, Will wondered if he wasn't overdoing the air of quiet menace. Then he discarded the thought. With a person like this, whose life probably centered on informing and double-dealing, he needed to assert a level of authority, and the only form of authority this sharp-featured toady would understand would be based on fear. Unless Will managed to dominate him, the tavern-keeper was liable to tell him any line of lies that came to mind. "Yes, sir, that's how I see it." The "sir" was a good start, Will thought. Respectful, without being too ingratiating. He smiled again. "So, unless you'd like to match my coin with one of yours, let's see it that I'm the one asking and you're answering." His hand slid away from the gold coin once more, leaving it gleaming dully on the rough surface of the bar. "The Black O'Malley. Is he in tonight?" Rat-face allowed his gaze to slide around the tavern, although he already knew the answer. He cleared his throat again. Strange how the presence of this young man seemed to leave it dry. "No, sir, not yet. He's usually in a little later than this." "Then I'll wait," Will said. He glanced around and noticed a small table set away from the other patrons. It was in a corner, a suitably unobtrusive spot, and it would be out of the line of vision of anyone entering the tavern. "I'll wait there. When O'Malley arrives, you won't say anything to him about me, and you won't look at me, but you'll tug on your ear 3 times to let me know he's here. Is that clear?" "Yes, sir, it is." "Good. Now." He picked up the coin and the sax knife, and for a moment the tavern-keeper thought he was going to reclaim the money, but he held it on edge and sliced carefully through it, cutting it into 2 half-circles. 2 thoughts occurred to the tavern-keeper. The gold must be awfully pure to cut so easily, and the knife must be frighteningly sharp to go through it with so little effort. Will slid 1/2 of the gold pieces across the bar. "Here's half now as a gesture of good faith. The other half once you've done what I ask." The tavern-keeper hesitated for a second or two. Then, swallowing nervously, he claimed the mutilated half-gold piece. "Would you be wanting anything to eat while you wait, sir?" he asked. Will replaced the other half of the gold coin in his belt-purse, then rubbed his fingers and thumb together. They were slightly coated with grease from the brief contact with the bar-top. He looked once more at the filthy cloth over the tavern-keeper's shoulder and shook his head. "I don't think so." Will sat, nursing his coffee, as he waited for the man he sought to enter the bar. When Will had first arrived at Port Cale, he had found a room at an inn some distance from the waterfront, in one of the better-kept areas of town. The innkeeper was a taciturn man, not given to the sort of gossip that this kind usually indulged in. Gossip was a way of life with innkeepers, Will thought, but this one seemed decidedly atypical. Better section of town or no, he realized, it was still a town that depended largely on smuggling and other forms of illegal trade. People would tend to be close-mouthed around strangers. unless a stranger offered gold, as Will did. He'd told the innkeeper that he was looking for a friend, a large man with long gray hair, dressed in a white robe and attended by a group of some 20 followers. There would be 2 among them who wore purple cloaks and wide-brimmed hats of the same color, possibly carrying crossbows. He'd seen the truth in the innkeeper's eyes as he described Tennyson and the remaining Genevesian assassins. Tennyson had been here all right. His pulse lifted a little at the thought that he might still be here, but the innkeeper's words dashed that hope. "They were here," he said, "but they've gone." Apparently, the man had decided that, if Tennyson had already left Port Cale, there was no harm in telling this to the young man asking after him. Will had pursed his lips at the news, allowing the gold coin to tumble end over end across the knuckles of his right hand, a trick he'd spent hours perfecting to pass the time around countless campfires. The metal caught the light and gleamed invitingly as it flipped end over end, first in one direction, then the other, drawing the innkeeper's eyes. "Gone where?" The innkeeper looked back at him. Then he jerked his head in the direction of the harbor. "Gone over to the sea? To where? I don't know." "And any idea who might know?" The innkeeper had shrugged. "Your best bet would be to ask the Black O'Malley. Happens that he might know. When there's folk looking to leave in a hurry, he's often the one who'll accommodate them." "A strange name. How did he come by it?" "There was a sea fight some years ago. His ship was boarded by—" The man had hesitated briefly, then continued, "by pirates. There was a fight, and one of them hit him in the face with a flaming torch. The burning pitch of the torch clung to his skin and burned him badly, leaving a black scorch mark to the left side of his face." Will had nodded thoughtfully. If there had been any pirates involved in the fight, he was willing to bet that they were sailing in O'Malley's company, but that was immaterial. "And how would I find this O'Malley?" he asked. "Most nights you'll find him at the Heron Tavern, down by the docks." The innkeeper had taken the coin, and as Will turned away, he'd added, "It's a dangerous place. Might not be a good idea to go there alone. You, a stranger, as you are. I have a couple of large lads who do work for me from time to time. Might they'd be willing to go along with you, for a small fee?" The young man looked back, considered the suggestion, and shook his head, smiling slowly. "I think I can look after myself."